The day you stopped explaining yourself was the day they lost all their power over you. And they felt it before you even realized it. There is a version of you that no longer explains, justifies, or defends every decision you make. And that version of you is absolutely terrifying to every person who has ever controlled you. Think about the last time you said no to someone. Not just no, but the full experience of saying no, the immediate anxiety that followed, the rapid mental calculation of how they might react. The almost automatic follow-up, I can if you really need me to. That came out of your mouth before you even decided to say it. Or think about the last time you made a completely ordinary decision, changed your plans, chose something different, set a small boundary, and felt compelled to explain it in exhaustive detail to someone who never actually asked for an explanation. Why do we do this? Why do people who are otherwise confident, capable, and intelligent feel this compulsive need to justify their choices, defend their decisions, and seek approval before they allow themselves to simply exist? Today, we are going to break that apart completely because the answer goes much deeper than people pleasing, and understanding it will change the way you move through every single room you ever walk into. Why we over-explain. The compulsive need to over-explain does not come from nowhere. It was taught. In most cases, it was taught very early in homes where having an independent thought, making an independent choice, or simply existing in a way that differed from what was expected led to conflict, criticism, or withdrawal of love. You learned, perhaps before you even had language for it, that your choices needed to be pre-approved to be valid, that your no on its own was not enough, that your feelings needed to be defended before anyone challenged them. And so you developed a pattern of explaining yourself preemptively, building your case before the prosecution even arrived, apologizing for decisions you had not yet made, seeking permission for a life that was always supposed to be yours to live. This is not a weakness. This is a deeply intelligent adaptation to an environment that punished autonomy. The problem is that adaptation followed you out of that environment and into every relationship, every workplace, and every interaction you have had since. What over-explaining actually signals? Here is something nobody tells you about over-explaining, and once you understand it, you cannot unknow it. Every time you over-explain yourself to someone, you are handing them a map to your vulnerabilities. Think about it this way. When you justify a decision excessively, you are telling the other person, I am not fully confident in this choice, and I need your approval to feel okay about it. When you apologize preemptively, you are signaling, I believe my needs are an imposition and I'm sorry for having them. When you explain your no in exhaustive detail, you are communicating my boundary alone is not enough. I need you to agree with it for it to count. And to a person who wants to control you, this is not just information. This is an instruction manual. Every justification you offer is an argument they can dismantle. Every apology you give before being asked signals that you can be made to feel guilty easily. Every detailed explanation of your no is an opening they can push through. The moment you stop explaining, you close every single one of those doors simultaneously. The psychology of brevity. Watch how confident people communicate. Not arrogant people, not aggressive people, but genuinely secure, self-possessed people who know their own worth. They make short statements. I am not available for that. That does not work for me. I have decided not to. No footnotes, no apologies, no preemptive defense of a position nobody has attacked yet. And notice what happens in the room when someone speaks this way. There is a stillness, a kind of involuntary respect that even people who dislike the answer cannot help but feel. Because brevity communicates something that no amount of explanation ever can. It communicates that you do not require the other person's understanding in order to trust yourself. The longer the explanation, the more clearly it communicates anxiety, self-doubt, and a need for external validation. And the more it communicates those things, the more it invites challenge, pushback, and disrespect. Your words are not just communication. They are a signal about how you see yourself, and the world takes its cue from that signal. What happens when you stop? This is the part nobody prepares you for. When you stop over-explaining, when you start responding with calm, brief, unbothered clarity, the people around you will not always respond with respect. Some of them will escalate. They will push harder. Question more aggressively, accuse you of being cold, selfish, or difficult. They will say things like, you have changed, or I do not know who you are anymore, or you used to be so much more understanding. And here is what you need to understand about that reaction. It is confirmation. When someone is disturbed by your decision to simply say no without a detailed explanation, they are revealing that their relationship with you was always dependent on your insecurity. They were not connecting with your strength. They were depending on your need for approval. Your confidence is not the problem. Your confidence is the mirror showing them something about themselves they were not ready to see. The people who genuinely respect you will adjust. They will meet your brevity with their own. They will understand that a no is a no and a boundary is a boundary, and your self-respect is not a negotiation. And the ones who cannot accept it were never actually in your corner to begin with. The approval addiction. Let us talk about something uncomfortable. For many people, the compulsive need to explain and justify is not just a habit, it is an addiction to approval. And like every addiction, it comes with withdrawal symptoms when you try to stop. When you make a decision and do not explain it, there is a period of intense discomfort and almost physical anxiety. A voice that tells you they are going to think badly of you, they are going to be angry. You need to go back and explain yourself before this gets worse. That voice is withdrawal. It is your nervous system trained over years or decades to regulate itself through external validation, reacting to the absence of its usual source of relief. The discomfort is real, but it is temporary. And on the other side of it is something extraordinary, a self that no longer needs permission to exist. Sit with the discomfort. Do not reach for the explanation. Let the anxiety peak and pass without acting on it, because every time you do, you are retraining your nervous system to find safety from the inside rather than the outside. That is where real freedom lives. Here is a practical truth that will immediately change how you communicate. A boundary does not require reason to be valid. Read that again. You do not need to explain why you do not want to attend. You do not need to justify why a certain topic is off limits. You do not need to provide your complete emotional history to explain why a particular behavior is not acceptable to you. I'm not comfortable with that as a complete sentence. That does not work for me as a complete sentence. I've decided not to use a complete sentence. The moment you add because to any of those statements, you open a negotiation. And the person on the other side of that boundary now has something to argue with. A boundary with a lengthy explanation is an invitation to debate. A boundary without one is a wall. You are allowed to have walls. You are allowed to decide that certain things are simply not up for discussion. Not because you cannot defend them, but because they do not require your defense. Your comfort, your limits, and your choices are valid because they are yours. That is the only reason required. Now, let us talk about the title of this video. Why does stopping explanation make you dangerous? Not dangerous in the harmful sense. Dangerous in the sense that you become impossible to manipulate, difficult to guilt, and completely unmoved by tactics that used to work on you perfectly. A person who needs approval can be controlled through disapproval. A person who needs to be understood can be controlled through deliberate misunderstanding. A person who needs to justify themselves can be controlled by constantly challenging their justification. But a person who has decided that their own judgment is sufficient, who can be misunderstood, disapproved of, and challenged without flinching, that person has no lever available to pull. You cannot guilt someone who has released the need for your approval. You cannot manipulate someone who does not require your validation. You cannot control someone whose sense of self does not depend on your opinion of them. That is what makes you dangerous. Not aggression, not coldness, not walls. Just the quiet, unshakable certainty that you are enough, exactly as you are, without needing anyone else to confirm it. Here is what I want you to carry with you from this video. The next time you feel that familiar pull to over-explain, to add the because, to soften the no, to justify the boundary, pause just for a moment. And ask yourself, am I explaining this because it genuinely needs context? Or am I explaining it because I am afraid of how they will feel if I do not? If the answer is the second one, try something different. Say what you mean, simply, clearly, without apology, and then be still. Let the silence sit. Let them process. Let the discomfort exist without rushing to fill it with justification. You will feel it the first time you do it. That unfamiliar, quiet confidence, that strange new feeling of having said exactly what you meant and nothing more. That feeling is what it feels like to finally trust yourself. You do not owe anyone a detailed explanation of who you are, what you choose, or how you live. A simple no delivered calmly and without explanation is one of the most powerful things you will ever say. Save this, practice it, and come back whenever you need reminding.